I seem to detect a divergence of opinion here, something like a chicken and egg problem. I think what Chan is saying, my understanding is decentralization is not enough of a revolution to completely unseat and replace this current generation of dominant players, Twitter, and the like. You have to have a revolutionary enough experience to bring people in, something that we haven't quite come up with yet. Nobody has really dreamed up a perfect new revolution yet. Decentralization may be only half a revolution. You need to figure out the other half to bring people in to really build something completely new, that completely shocks and tantalizes this younger generation. What Suji is saying seems to be, as long as you provide decentralization, which solves a lot of the problems that especially younger people find unbearable with Twitter and the other big ones now, they will come, and they between themselves, as long as we have users, they can help create this new experience. So you get the people in, they will help build it into something new, into something completely different than when you first started with. So maybe a chicken and egg problem here, but am I understanding it right?
Yeah, I agree. I remember my first time reading the Linux source code. I'm like, shit, this is not beautiful, right? This is like a lot of old shitty codes and just there. And I read the logs, right? Why people write code like that way, and read the history, like, oh yeah, it's because there's a bunch of like college teenagers. They never work at Microsoft. They don't know how to write a decent OS, and they just success because people patch on it. And after 20 years in the cloud computation, it beat all the other OS to that, right? I think that's how we started. I mean, you don't need to start perfectly, to be a master of law, of lawmaking, to be a master of system design. You just need to have idea and the free man, and some vacation and some book to learn, and just share the idea to people. And the success in the open source, in the operating system, success in many ways, prior to the decentralized social network, prior to the blockchain. And in this era, in this generation, I see a lot of like similar things happen in the blockchain community, or in broader words of decentralized community. Social network is the most holy thing among our lives today. I think among our lives, cyber lives today. I see those people solve some problem about money, solve some problem about entertainment. So I'm really optimistic about these people solving problem of social network. And again, like how do they do that? How's the approach? They only take a free guy, a summer vacation, some reference book, and to open source the code, and maybe launch token, maybe not, and to gather people, to call people. And you're going to call the best people from the world. The best people don't have degree, but they can beat the MIT guy to the ass. The best people they never work one day in a big corporation, but they can, be the best PhD. And they'll be the anonymous guy, they share a token or not, and they're going to win a war. So I think that's something we're calling. But if you you dig into your head into like a good product, good experience, say, oh, I need to just adjust this color from red to blue. You're gonna be someone like Steve Jobs, right? You're gonna be a dictator. You say, dude, you're stupid. I need to do this thing because I'm smart. I think people look like this logo because I'm the design guy. I'm the master of product. If you be someone like Steve Jobs, you will you're able to produce good product and people love. It's also gonna change the world. But I think like right now, there's enough Steve Jobs stuck in those like big company, Facebook, Twitter. And it's look at Instagram, how good the product it is. It's really good. I bet like there's a lot of good, product manager just stuck there. They cannot free their idea. You have a new functionality and the legal came in and say, dude, it's not gonna work because we have other, advertisement team conflict with this design. And you have like idea of payment, it's not gonna work because Facebook don't have license. So I think the problem was never you need another Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is out there stuck somewhere. You need someone like Linux, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think Feng, you did a really good job of capturing certainly my perspective on it, and I think quite honestly, I think the proof is really in my favor. I mean, for most of the last 2 or 3 years, what we heard time and time again was that the smartest people are moving into Web3, and that as a function of that, amazing products will naturally come about, and the appeal of the technology itself would be sufficient to drive consumer demand and create a huge amount of value. So far we just that didn't work. I mean, I was always I will admit that I was skeptical of that perspective even before it happened, but certainly I think it's been confirmed by what we've seen since. Like, I think that blockchain, I think a lot of the exciting work that's going on the protocol side. I think all of this is fundamentally really cool technology, and I mean, my background is as a technologist, so I really admire and I see a lot of potential in what this will eventually enable. But the application is what matters, not the underlying technology, right? Like, I've always felt that way, and the last 2 years I think was proof of that. We had a lot of people that if you read how they presented themselves on Twitter or on Instagram, that you would have thought that they were like loyal fans who gain a lot of value from blockchain and from decentralized finance. But really, when you drill down into it, they didn't understand the tech, and they didn't care about tech. They're just speculating. They held tokens. They were degens. They were here to just bet on this coin going up a whole lot, and that was a huge percentage of the consumer, the very limited consumer adoption that we saw. A lot of that could be transferred into that category. So I find that kind of activity unsustainable and not especially interesting. So I'm actually really, really glad that the hype cycle has now left. And I do believe that the projects and the protocols that survive now we're back to really what matters. I mean, there's an interesting thing that happens to us in our fund. So we invest at the earliest stages of company creation, right? And we have roughly over 1,300 to 1,500 companies that apply each batch. And from the 13 to 1,500, we pick about 20. So it's roughly 1%. And so I get to live through a hype cycle every 6 to 12 months. And it's fascinating how well it works. Like back in 2017, 2018, we saw the first crypto wave where it felt like a third of all the companies that applied were already doing a ICO or something along those lines. And then a year later, we had a wave for artificial intelligence, where it seemed like everybody were using AI for this and that and that. And then over the last two years, as you can imagine, we saw a lot of stuff that just used that really built a whole pitch deck around Web3. And I just and every time I see that, I remind myself and I remind my team, don't get caught up by the technology that they use. It's like saying I'm building the app with a database. Like, is that enough? Does it matter that you're using a centralized database? I mean, maybe 30 years ago, people weren't able to use a database. Now you have database. Is that sufficient? Of course not. The underlying technology is not important. It's the application and the features and the value that you provide. That's what really matters.
I think what Chong was saying was like, even though we threw the big question whether today's topic is about decentralized social networks is going to replace, right, the current mainstream ones. On the other hand, that we see this hype, right? You read the example of Clubhouse, and then Suji was giving lots of examples about the shortcomings of the cycle of the life cycle of the social networks. So what might be coming next, right? If you look at the user numbers, there's actually a really big gap between, for example, Twitter has about 380 million something active users, right, monthly. But actually, Mastodon, right, the mainstream decentralized social network only has about 2.5 million users. So even we have a lot of hope, to look forward the next phase of some technology disrupted decentralized social network. What might come? And whether time-wise, like Suji, I don't know, when you are looking at the new projects, what excites you, or what might make you to make the judgment that you actually would bet on this thing would go big next?
Yeah, we are pretty much one of the most active decentralized social network investor. In the past 2 years, we pulled the trigger for around like 120 times. So like, every year, 60 investment, that's actually quite a big number. And half of them, I think 1/3 of them are decentralized social network, 1/3 of them are infra, 1/3 of them like content, entertainment content, because you have to have content on the social network, right? My opinion is like you need a whole full stack of the decentralized infra, otherwise it's not going to work. They need to search, right? You need to search the things in a decentralized manner. You don't want to have another CDM. So we have to invest in a decentralized search engine, and there's actually one company we invest together with Baidu. Then you need to do other stuff. You need to do decentralized recommendation. OpenAI is cool, but it's pretty much centralized. You have to access through API. And if you access through an API, it means the US government is always behind, or some government is always behind. There's always the sanction list, right? People from some country cannot use the ChatGPT, even though it's really cool. And that's the best thing. Like this happened on GitHub. Right, so we need to have invest in decentralized algorithm, try to, use the same AI and machine learning algorithm, but use it to build a better way that able to be sanction resistant, et cetera, et cetera. That actually eventually leads to investment to over 120 companies. To be honest, some of them are just, failure, they just came back to do it. We run out of money and it's not working, and very sorry. And some of them are not really a builder. Some of them are really hard builder and they figure out it's not going to work technically. But just imagine if this all put together technically, and you're going to have something like, you have super good, user experience algorithm and recommendations like TikTok, but you can prove you're not controlled by any state because it's decentralized. No one can control it. And or if you want to view if you want to do the voting, please buy enough token yourself. If the US Congress have problem with your data, please buy enough token, right? Just like how the Ethereum POS is having right now. And then you're gonna have a very cool monetization functionality like DeFi, right? You can say, dude, I'm gonna have a vacation and I want to monetize my video during my vacation. So I want to collateralize my video as an NFT in some DeFi functionality without a passport. Say, hey, dude, this is my cool adult video. Put that in the DeFi contract. I'll take out like, 10K for a good vacation. And I'm hardworking OnlyFans creator. You deserve that. Yeah, you can do that without a passport. That's something you can do together, right? And there's many cool stuff you can only imagine, right? It's actually become a true borderless society, a true cyberspace that have independent people can talk freely and can immigrate freely. That's our goal. And to achieve that goal, it need a lot of infra, right? So yeah, I agree that right now the infra is definitely not working. And to achieve this goal, you also need to have a lot of like defense, right? Like government gonna come in. Sometimes big tech can come in. You need to have lawyers. You have to have a bunch of lawyers to protect the company invest. You need to have defense. We need to say, hey, dude, we're gonna sue you first. So we actually learning a lot from early pioneer like EFF. They were suing the US government previously in the 90s, and they won some like fundamental cases. Suing is not enough because a lot of government, they will not accept they're wrong, right? They're not saying you are losing in court, right? And I'm gonna listen to the Supreme Court. No. So we need to have better technology like anonymous technology and DAO working functionality to protect our contributor. You don't want to work for Suji and one day you wake up and say, dude, knock, you're in trouble. So you have to have a decentralized working group that you have the idea input in our ecosystem, input in our brain, input in our like knowledge graph without worry that your idea, your contribution will be eventually get you in trouble, right? So that's something we're doing within our on-token community DAO. So So that's something we're doing uniquely. By putting all this together, we actually trying to, first able to help to invest and to defend, and sometimes try to anonymous and try to help to let those good guys to run away, right? So that's something we try to build a huge ecosystem. Mastodon, we donate and we help them create the official iOS client that's actually developed by our engineer. We also run, some of the top 3 of the top instance. Nostr, not directly connected right now, but one of our previous investor, current shareholder, current token holder, Mac Webster, he's very active in the community. We actually are trying to do more donation.
And Chong's attention to these questions that just came in from our friend and audience member, Ray. It's in the chat window. I wonder if you guys can see it.
If you're building a consumer-facing product, okay, the only thing that matters is, are users enjoying it? Are they using it? I think everything else is all BS. I mean, that's the honest to God truth. And I think, again, this is something that I probably had as a prior. So it's kind of like maybe there's a bit of confirmation bias here. But I look at Mastodon, and it's, to Nancy's point, is 1% of the daily actives of Twitter, and it's probably dropping. What I see is that probably 1% of consumers out there care about being on a decentralized platform that can't be censored, that has all of that component of it, the privacy, the lack of censorship. I just don't think that 99% of consumers care. People are still on Facebook despite all of the well-acknowledged privacy violations that Facebook is involved with, right? And the experts out there wring their hands and kind of like, oh my gosh, Facebook is so evil. But guess what? Consumers are still on Facebook, right? So if you're building a consumer-facing product, in my opinion, after all of the business plan pitching is done, show me that users want what you want, what you're offering. That's the bottom line. I personally, from a blockchain, from a technology perspective, I think the most promising components of what we're going to see from this wave is more on the programmable money, smart contracts, investment protocols. I really think that is a revolution. That is something where there are efficiencies that are being unlocked that everyone will find attractive. Now, there's lots of bugs there, but I think without having to use my imagination too much, I can understand why people with capital to invest in the capital markets will find value in some of those things eventually. Whereas on the consumer facing stuff, going back to the topic here, which is all about social networks, I stand by my statement that most likely the next wave, the next product that really comes out and captures the imagination of the teenagers out there. Why was Facebook no longer cool and then Instagram cool? Well, because the kids, right? The kids of the Facebookers, they came on, they're like, I don't want to be on Facebook with my older brother or with my uncle. I want to have my own thing, And I stand by my statement that that's going to happen. And I think there's a very good chance that when that thing launches, they're going to use elements of decentralized finance, because why wouldn't they? There's a lot of things, but it's not going to be because of it that app wins.
This was interesting, and I hope we can do this again. So I just want to conclude that, right? So basically, Chong was giving us really something to think about it, right? The fundamental question to ask from the investment perspective is, it has to be a good product that attract users, right? That's very simple and straightforward. Really good takeaways today. And thank you so much. So yeah, goodbye, and we'll get together again. Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you soon. All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.